So he comes in. He's like, "Hey, it's a good job today. I wouldn't say that if it weren't true. Got a little something for you over there in the next room." So I go over to the next room, and it's Stewart hot dogs and root beer was my payment for that day's work.
Good job, kid.
Yeah, man.
As long as you can play, you'll never go hungry.
That's right. Hey, all the hot dogs with sauce
Yeah.
that you can eat. There we go.
Hey. Hey.
Hey,
That's a guy I know.
there he is.
It
All the glory.
looks good, man.
Thanks, babe.
Your hair is very coiffed and trimmed.
Is it?
You don't look like you have COVID. I still got COVID hair. So
Well, yeah, I had, and then I didn't want it here, and we cut it into a thing. It's that game you play where it's like they might let me use my no wig. Okay.
can I? But it's okay. Hey, man, it's good to
The
see you
first
lose a good sport.
2013, I think, it was the first time where the director goes, "That's not a call-off hairline."
Yeah.
I get that.
The key is to go it long in the front, and that way they can't see how far back it went. Mine's running away like it's, scared of my eyebrows.
Dude, the whole world's scared of your eyebrows.
That's true. Just want to do. It's the baritone.
Yeah, I know.
So how are things in Des Moines, man? You know this is being recorded, right?
Yeah. Things in Des Moines are great.
They're great.
In St. Petersburg, Russia, where I'm having to do this role, is what gives me pause.
Yeah, is that where you are now? I thought you were in Des Moines.
Totally, yeah. We're doing Queen of Spades.
That's right.
Just
That was a joke.
being facetious. Yeah, it's a tough, which you know a lot about these kinds of roles that will all of a sudden surprise you with things you didn't know they would need or pull out of you or whatever, right? So, I've sung what 10, 15 years of the same role with different titles, like so. All you all talk about is kind of like stuff like, man, this one's a bear. I don't know about that. And then I was like, you just go out and sing. What's the big deal? And then I got a hold of this thing, and I'm sort of like, oh, okay.
Got to learn new
So
stuff.
if I sing out at the beginning of Act 2, I die. If I take it easy over here, I'll never get my voice back in the right. But if I act, so I can't act, okay.
So it's basically alchemy, which we all know.
Yeah.
There's no secret sauce.
And I've been used to that to a certain degree. I mean, but this thing, man, it's long and it's in Russian.
Yeah, is it your first Russian role?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I'm an autodidact. It won't be a problem. I listened to Nikolai Geta back in the 90s, and he had fantastic diction, so I'll be okay. No. It's like every coaching I have has this thing where like, okay, I need you to go oh, and you're going oh.
Yeah.
Do it again. Oh. Those are the same. No, they're not. It's like they sound the same to me. I'm sorry.
Is this your first Russian role?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah. So tough. And
that bears no resemblance to anything we know.
It's what I wonder if like it's when like our Italian friends would be like, man, English is just the weirdest language and it's so hard for me to get my brain around. I wonder if it's a similar thing for us trying to do with Russian.
Yeah.
Just so many sound, and count the number of times I'll be like, yeah, but you just did this instead of what I thought was yeah, you do that. Well, okay. Someone gonna tell me which one do I do? They're both fine. They're both fine.
People always tell me, man, you got to do Onegin. And I'm like, Yeah, yeah. If I have, let me know about 2 years out or a year out, maybe. But
That's it.
I've never done anything. I didn't even study Russian in school.
Yeah,
I
me
think we
neither.
had it, but I was just like, no, I'm not gonna. There's like four operas. I'm not really gonna spend my time.
That is exactly it. Man, I knew this thing was going to be awful to learn. Not only because it's Russian, but it's super long and it's like three different roles inside the same thing. I gave myself more than three times the time I normally take to memorize a role, and it was nowhere near enough.
At least there's in like English and Romance languages or German. It's a lot of like similarities. You can be like, oh, that word means that, and that word. Okay, I got some hooks.
Yep.
But with Russian, I never know what the heck's going on. I'm like, I can't. And it's a different alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
I think people. I mean, we don't. This is not an inside podcast. There's a lot of regular folks out there listening to this show. You may
Yeah.
not realize this, but Russian uses a completely different alphabet,
Yeah.
and they don't sound like they look.
Right. Yeah. And the thing with the Russian, I probably was just sitting there spinning my wheel for a good solid month, trying to figure out what visual written language I was going to try to use to learn this.
Yeah.
Because if it was going to be the Cyrillic, the alphabet that they use, that's a whole couple weeks of just doing that. You're not learning pitches. You're not learning anything about your trying to familiarize yourself with their alphabet. So then I thought, okay, I'm gonna go with the transliteration. So transliteration is where it's like they use our alphabet to approximate the same sounds. Well, turns out there's no standard Russian transliteration.
Yeah.
People just kind of make them up. Kind of like if I were just to all of a sudden start radically down. So I couldn't find any consistency among them. And certain things. So now it's like you're having to learn that as its own language,
Yeah.
which isn't really Russian. It's going to end up sounding like it once you've done it. But now you're learning that whole language
Huh.
on top of actual Russian.
Klingon and Esperanto all wrapped into one.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't think Russian's a real language. I think they just made it up.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, believe me, I've been making plenty of stuff up. No, all month long.
Yeah. Are you,
And last night was the one that they record for the
PBS?
TV,
Yeah.
and I caught myself so many times last night, man. For the first time out of nowhere, I'll just be doing this scene, and I'll just start throwing in Russian sounds.
Yo, boy, dad, little boy.
The boy,
Ooh.
I'm just like, oh,
You said you had to pick a language to look at. Are you the kind of, I mean, I'm this way to a certain extent. Like when you're singing, do you sometimes see the score in your head?
yeah,
Yeah. That's how you do it.
yeah. It's a mixture of that, and what really solidifies it for me is being able to stage it and visualize where I was when I said this thing.
Yeah. 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 That's how I memorize. I've
Yeah.
never been one of these like robots that like, you show up and it's just like all in there and they're just like, "Du-du-du-du-du." I just can't do that. I need like my feet are here and I'm looking at this person or that person or whatever.
Right.
But that's when it all makes sense. Before that, it's just words, man, just words.
Yeah. Me too. And it's a kind of, unfortunately, in the way our business works a lot, you can only do that after a while when you've been trusted. As an untrusted newer entity, that's you getting fired
Yeah,
because you seem unprepared. But really, that's got to be part of the preparation for a role you've never done before.
yeah. I mean, it's really unique to our business because actors don't do that. They don't they show up with their
Yeah.
books and they hold their books until like previews. You know.
Yeah. So I was just watching an interview a couple of days about somebody talking about having De Niro's lines taped to their chest while they're in a scene. So the camera's back there, and De Niro's here, and I would tape my lines right there, and he would just read them.
Yeah, see, I'm doing this right now. I'm doing this Pops concert in Glimmerglass. I mean, I'm singing Trovatore later, but our time together.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like one of the songs. Do you know "Kiss Me, Kate"? Though, where is the life that late I led? Where is
Hmm.
it now?
Hmm.
Totally dead. Well, there's this whole list of like women, and their names all kind of fall in the same part of the melody in the strophic structure. And man, just keeping those things straight. Like, what did Momo do? She's sold her
Hmm.
pictures in the scriptures of the Duomo. What
Hmm.
is that? I don't know. And I've been like,
Hmm.
I literally, it's luckily it's like the third thing in the program, so I can get that out of the way. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm a nervous wreck until I get that out of the way. Because
Mm.
I don't know about you, but I didn't do a lot of patter work. Like, and I didn't do Gilbert and Sullivan and stuff like that. Did you ever do that stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was a
Yeah.
baritone back then, so I did all the patter songs.
Man, yeah, I never have
Yeah.
done that. I don't understand how you guys do that.
The staging is key, and for me, it comes down to it, if I don't have stage and I need something, I'll just stage myself in my living room, and I'll have a bunch of visual cues. You gotta so like whatever name of this person, I've got to picture what she looks like, what she's wearing, what she's holding in her hand,
Yeah.
and I can do those things in order. But just trying to remember his text,
It is funny how
I can't do
we
it.
can recreate. Like, I really depend on that, my visual memory of
Mm,
I'm a visual learner, man. It's like I have to see it, and it's
yeah,
funny how much like how much we can recreate in our mind and see the pictures.
yeah.
I guess we're geniuses.
That's it. I mean, just plain and simple, down to the nuts and bolts of it. Yeah.
So one of the things I want to talk about was that, like, I know that when you were like a young boy of 5, 6, 10 years old, you always grew up dreaming that you wanted to be Pavarotti one day, right?
No, no, actually, not quite.
So you kind of grew up like I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think musically, it's really hard, and I've talked about this a lot, and uh, I it's hard for me to really pinpoint when the moment was when I thought, okay, I think I want to do this for a living, because um, I think in my mind, money doesn't exist, and you just kind of do what it is you're supposed to do, and everything kind of works out, right? so, so my earliest musical memories of really being interested in anything were from my granddad, and he's from Breathitt County, Kentucky, and so okay, my little hometown. I mean, you want me to get into this stuff? I don't
Yeah,
want to get
man.
off on too much
Lay
of
it
a
on it.
rant. All right, so
What
where
did
I'm
I
from
do?
is Portsmouth, Ohio, is the Appalachian region on the south central southeastern part of Ohio, borders West Virginia and Kentucky, and my little town was a mill town. So nearly everyone in Portsmouth, their families come from West Virginia, Kentucky, because the folks that didn't want to work in the mines or the tobacco fields came there to work in the mill, steel. So everyone knew each other. My mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family. On my dad's side, it was the chief of police, and on my mom's side, it was the crazy guy with the machine gun on the roof bar that they had shootouts with a couple times a week. And
Yeah.
he would literally just call my mom, and be like, "Come on down here and get Earl off there before we have to shoot him." I mean, it was a different high,
It's like
right?
when Dewey Cox goes crazy on acid.
Yeah. So back then, my grandpa, he was about 5'5", and he was a song and dance man. He used to go around touring vaudeville shows,
Really?
and yeah, and then he became a long haul trucker. And by the time I came along, he was retired. But that's how everyone knew him. If you brought up his name, it was. I mean, he was a horse showsman. Um, but everyone who knew him back in the day would be like, "I've never seen anyone that can dance like him." He'd do that thing where he'd run up the wall and flip off. So they had a horse
Appalachian
farm.
Ninja.
Yes, he was a hillbilly ninja. There is absolutely no question. He taught me how to crack a whip. Um, he'd do all the tricks with the lassos and everything. He was just a cool guy. But I would go stay at their houses on the weekends. So from about the time I was probably 5 until I was 9 or 10. So it would be mess horses, and he played guitar. And I always thought that was the coolest thing. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really pick it up. It was he played like Willie's guitars, a nylon string,
Mhm.
and we'd watch Hee Haw, and I would just sit and watch Roy Clark and just think like, man, this is magical. So after that amount of time, I think I got steeped in country music from him. You know, that old famous line. He liked all kinds of music, country and western. Um, and my dad was super into rock and roll. Now, I don't know if it wasn't an actor or anything, because that's just not his style, but that's just how it worked out. You know, he went to Nam and back, and he would see the Who in concert and stuff like this. So there's always music around. But it wasn't until my parents split up when I was about 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old. And when my mom got remarried, this fella's ex-wife had left a Les Paul, a Gibson Les Paul in the basement.
Whoa.
I mean, I'm like, oh, okay. So I started messing around with it, playing with it. And this kid from down the street played, I think it was an Yngwie Malmsteen album for me. And I was just like, what is this wizardry? So I don't know how it specifically happened, because I never took lessons. There was never anything like that. But so that was around when I was probably 9 years old. And by the time I was 13, I was teaching guitar at the music store, and I had a job at a studio.
Nice.
So I kind of don't remember those years and how it got from this to this, but it just happened. So yeah, opera was very far from.
For some folks that may not understand, when you say you got a job at a studio, what does that mean?
Okay, so in my hometown, which is about 20,000 people, there was a guy who was kind of my hero. His name was Tony Phillips, and he's as real deal of a hair metal rock guitarist you could ever think of. You know, just Van Halen, living in your hometown. There's the guy. So he had gone to the studio up in Chesapeake, Ohio, which is about 45 minutes from us. It's right on the border of West Virginia. And he'd cut this studio awesome EP, and it was amazing. And we all were just kind of mind blown. And it was now I remember, it was my last day of middle school. So the last day of middle school, they took us down to the park. And so and you could just kind of do whatever. And these guys rolled up in the car, and one of them was that guy that got me started with the Yngwie album. So I swear it was like the beginning of the Weird Al Yankovic Fat, which I guess is the Michael Jackson thing. Like, they all kind of walked out of the thing like, here you've been playing. You've been playing stuff down at the music store. Here you're getting pretty good. I'm like,
is this a mafia
school? Got in their car. Yeah. It's like, oh, cool. So not long after that, they took me to that studio, and so what happens for our fair listeners is we'll get a record contract sometimes for various reasons, but a lot of times they won't have a band. They're just a guy who wrote some songs, and people are like, okay, so when they get to the studio, they need to get a bunch of musicians to come in and make their album with them. And guys usually won't go out on tour with them or be part of their bands. They just kind of stay there. Great examples of these, like the Wrecking Crew and the Swampers. So like all of Aretha Franklin's albums and all those things had the same group of guys on there that were just from the studio. I don't know. So I became one of those guys. I went into the studio, and the first thing the guy asked me is like, so you're the kid they've been talking about. Like, they've been talking about me? Like, well, I got a fella coming in to cut an album. We thought maybe you'd like to play on it. I was like, oh, well, I'll have to learn the songs. Like, how do I do? They were like, no, I mean, he'll sing them and you'll play along. Like, play what? Well, that's the job.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm writing songs with him. Oh, so I'm writing songs with him, but I won't get writing credit.
Like,
Got it.
I see where the hey kid comes in now.
Yep. Oh, buddy. So the first thing he says to me is, so how good are you compared to Tony Phillips? I'm like, so I look at the guy that brought me, and I'm like, am I supposed to answer honestly, or am I what? Yeah. I said, well, I'm not as good as him. You know, he's Zeus. He's like, well, we'll try it. We'll see how it works. So I don't know what happened, but it just worked. And you know, I sit down and he plugs you in and he's like, all right, so here's the vocal track. What would you play with that? I'm getting master on this. Like, all right, that's good. He's like, no, we're going to double it. Like, what do you mean double it? Play it again. Oh, did I mess up? No, we record two of them. Really? Yeah, that's how it works. It sounds better. Okay. So I play it again. Now he's like, he'll just say to me, all right, now like, chunk it up a bit. Chunk it up. Okay. So we're, trying stuff. So at the end of this night, we've cut, I think, 2 songs, which takes forever. I mean, that doesn't sound like much, but that was a lot of long work. So he comes in, he's like, hey, it's a good job today. I wouldn't say that if it weren't true. Got a little something for you over there in the next room. So I go over to the next room, and it's Stewart hot dogs and root beer was my payment for that day's work.
Good job, kid.
Yeah, man.
As long as you can play, you'll never go hungry.
That's right. Hey, all the hot dogs with sauce
Yeah.
that you can eat.
We'll play for hot dogs. This episode
what happens
brought to you by Stewart's. Stewart's, where you can get hot dogs, root beer, and ice cream, and gasoline.
That's right. Ashland, Kentucky. They're famous, man, down there. Hot dogs, root beer. And sauce is a thing from our area. It's like thin chili. Ooh. So I ended up just kind of going back there week after week. He'd have a new dude come in, and there were just a bunch of people that, and a lot of them I never really saw, but I ended up spending a lot of time with the guys in Billy Ray Cyrus's band, because he hadn't hit it big back then. And they were in there doing kind of the same thing I did. He was from Flatwoods, Kentucky, which is all very close. So like in my hometown, Portsmouth, they put we have this big mural project, and this famous mural guy named Robert Dafford comes in and paints all these, Branch Rickies from our hometown, people like that. Roy Rogers, King of the Cowboys from Portsmouth, Ohio. So I'm on this mural now, my hometown, alongside of Billy Ray Cyrus. And I'm like, now hold on, that man is from another state. But yeah, he had some cool guys in his band. And then
mullet is cooler on the picture.
He wins the mullet war, but I win the Elizabethan facial hair war, because I have like the thing.
So you're actually on the mural as an opera singer and costume, or is it like?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I sent them a bunch of pictures of which ones they wanted to use, and they ended up picking Don Carlos. So I'm there with my black velvet, staring off into the distance.
Is that generally a stop on the come see John Burton tour? You bring people out, let's go see my mural.
Yeah, anytime someone comes to town, I'll be like, "Hey, you guys hungry?" And then where are you going?
Who wants hot dogs and root beer?
River for a minute. Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, I'm on the wall.
I'll just kind of stop.
So are you? I always tell everybody that you're on Billy Ray Cyrus's albums. Is that correct? Or am I just pumping you up?
No, that's like the game of telephone. I am not on Billy's album. No, man. I don't remember where they cut that. I remember when it happened, because we were all around the same. But he had his own band, and he didn't need me. So what happened is I would just play on other people's albums with the keys player from his band and the drummer from his band. He had his own guitar player, and they played in Flatwoods and, in Huntington and Charleston, around all those areas. Then by the time he hit it big, they were off in Nashville. And no, I didn't play on Achy Breaky Heart. I was off in my own rock world by then.
Yeah. When you started, did you learn music? Can you read guitar music, or was this all about ear and shape and stuff?
No. And that's like how I transitioned into opera, kind of, that all sort of came to a head. I could read music because I had taken piano lessons. I was horrible at it. And I would sing in choirs and things. So I could sing music. However, when it came to a guitar neck, I could find you notes, I could play you chords, but if you showed me sheet music to something I was to play, I'm just sort of like, no clue.
Same here.
Yeah.
I had to do this.
Chord charts.
Oh yeah, play tabs and stuff, or chord charts. I can't even play tabs. Yeah. Who am I kidding? I can't do that either.
You can't. Tabs is easy.
I went to, so we had to do Sound of Music at Houston. And, this Edelweiss plays guitar.
Right.
And they asked, when I signed the contract, they're like, "Can you play guitar on this song?" I was like, "Yeah, it's Edelweiss. It's like 1-4-5-1 with the six."
Right.
So I'm like, "No problem."
Yeah.
And so they said okay, and so like about a month out or a month and a half out, they sent me the guitar part, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't, I didn't realize you guys meant actually like read music." Luckily, I had a friend who like read it and then gave me like the dumb guy version, which totally
Yeah. Yeah. That's the beauty of guitar. It's usually pretty
you can fake,
condensable.
you can fake it.
Yep. That's how it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Nashville number system, which I'm not all that steeped in, but it's not all that far off from what we talk about just in terms of, things like,
There you
solfege, the one chord, the four chord, the five chord. So they would talk about those kinds of things. But really in the beginning, it was kind of like I described. It was literally all by ear. The guy would just sing, here's how my song goes, and there's no guitar part at all, and you just kind of come up with it.
yeah.
And that also back then there was no internet, there was none of that. So if I wanted to learn how to play whatever song on the radio, you get it on tape and you rewind it a million times till you just figure it out.
Did you have the jam box with the two decks?
Oh yeah,
You
two
had to make
decks, baby.
copies and get it
It
off
was
the
a
radio.
console. Yeah,
Yeah.
recorded off the radio.
I was having this conversation with the pianist the other day, and he was like, he goes, when I was in school, like, because he was like, I guess, a conductor coach, and he was like, we listened to song rep. We had like all these collections of singers, great singers, and all this stuff. He goes, when I talk to the young people today, they don't listen to any of that stuff. You ask them what they listen to, it's like pop music or jazz or whatever they're listening to, but they don't listen to this music that we make a living at. He's like, they're aspiring to be in this industry, but they don't listen to the music. And I was like, but
Yeah,
I was like, I don't blame them. I mean, I don't really. I listen to what I'm working on, and if something's like super interesting, I'll listen to that. But when we were like in college and stuff, like we had to go to recycled CD stores or the library with a mini disc
mhm,
player, like to steal it off, or get LPs,
yeah,
and it was like an Easter egg hunt. You're always
hmm,
like, you got that, you get that, did you find that Corelli album, or whatever, a George
yeah,
Vivaldi thing? And it was like we'd all get together and like play stuff for each other because you owned your stuff and nobody
right,
else could find it. But today everything is just like a link or a Google search, and it's just no
yeah,
investment. It's like baseball cards.
yeah,
It- There's the only comparison I can imagine. It's like I got this Leonard Warren, Treasury of Songs CD. What do you got? Well, I got the John Charles Thomas. Let's trade.
yeah. That's so true.
Those are
And I
hard.
still have all of those CDs and those mini disc recordings and everything from back then junking up my house.
So much, dude. Like, you keep your CDs? I was like, yeah, I kept my CDs. They're in a
Of
box in the
course.
attic, but I kept them. I won't ever
Right.
plan on using them again. Because I'm the
No.
same way. I'm just like them. I'm like, do I want to go dig out a CD and like sit and like, or do I want to just get a link or go on Spotify and boom, it's instant, and I can go back and go back and go back.
Right.
Yeah. One of the cool things about this sort of weird confluence of things is that we did a fun thing over at Atlanta Opera. I guess I don't know how many years ago that was. It was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, our thing? Yeah, man. And I was thinking about that the other day. It's all kind of gone. I'd have to look back through pictures and things to see what year it was. Because when you and I were at Central City, I don't even know what year. I don't know which of the two it was that we did it after. It was after Tosca. It was during Tosca that
Yeah,
that it all
I had
happened.
the idea.
So that was 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we had this
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
I guess I think I just figured, I found out that you played guitar music, and I was like, hey, we should do something. And I'd already
Yeah.
had this idea boiling about. So I had this concert that I devised called Opera to Opry, which basically, like, it's for those of you that understand, that know who Hot Rise is, the bluegrass band from back in the day. They had an alter ego called Red Knuckles and the Trailblazers, and they would play like full on Western swing country music as their alter ego at the end of their concert, or special guests or whatever. And as a kid, I was fascinated with it. My dad had taped it on PBS, and I had wore the tape out because I thought it was hysterical. And I always thought it'd be funny to do that kind of thing with opera. The more I got into opera, because I also grew up playing, country and bluegrass music. And so I had the idea to do this opera to opry concert where we would come out and do our boring opera stuff. And then there would be like a mix up where the producer would come out and say, we actually ended up booking we thought we were booking two opera acts, but we ended up booking an opera act and an opry act. And the opry act just won't leave. They will insist on playing. So we did this at the Shakespeare Tavern, and we all had like alter egos. I think I was Cletus McHatfield, and you actually stayed the same because you were the glue that held the thing together. But Leah Partridge was Regine McHatfield, and we had Zebedee McHatfield with Corey Kreider as the preacher man. And everybody had these
Mm-hmm.
alter egos. And I guess our shtick was,
Hair.
yeah, right. Oh yeah, so much hair. Was that our guitar player had drunk too much
Hair.
wine and couldn't play, so we needed John to come fill in.
Yep.
So the second half of the concert was all country music, but everything related back to every opera aria, every duet that we did in the boring part. And the funniest thing was like we had it was basically a comedy show, a lot of bits, a lot of funny stuff, like hee haw for opera people. And the
Mm-hmm.
funniest thing was after the first half, we would sing like La Ciudad en la Mano, we'd be like, oh, it was very nice, it's lovely, or whatever. Of course, Kelly McCreda always got a huge standing ovation because it's John Burton and he's amazing. But
Oh well, of course.
the second half, when we all came out in our country music get up and as our alter egos, after every one of those numbers, people lost their minds. They just loved it. And I was like, but this is the part that we have to spend 20 years to learn how to do. This is just natural.
Right. Yep. Yep.
But that was so much fun, man. I had so much blast doing that concert.
So brilliant, Mike. Well, yeah, it is. It is a blast. It's a hard bit of work, that concert.
That was.
Um,
We've
but man,
never
it's so
played it.
brilliant because yeah, no, and that's tough to just. I mean, even if you have a week, if
Yeah.
you had even with a whole week, it's tough to get a band together that can really gel and get those things tight. And we do a lot of pretty tricky vocal harmony and that country stuff, and two different guitar parts and keeping that all interesting, and it's work, but man, it's just so brilliant. And I think I had I'm like this in life, that I think in goo and colors, but I can't put things into words often. But you, with this show, put into words for me something that I've been kind of feeling and thinking for a long time, which is one of the premises of the show, which is there's no difference between country music and opera.
Yeah.
It takes an opera 3 hours, and a country song will do it in 3 minutes, but it's the same thing.
Same stuff. Liquor, love, and the Lord. It's all the same material.
Brilliant.
They're both. I mean,
That's
they're
right.
both
And
the way country music used to be. It's a storytelling medium.
yeah,
It's today. It's all that bro country like Aaron Lewis stuff. Am I the only one? Have you heard that song?
mm,
Oh, listen to that one. It'll make your
no, I refused. No. Mm-mm. No, my sister-in-law loves all that stuff, and I just go out on the internet and find all the worst abusive modern country memes I can find and just text about 3 a day to her. It's a picture of Waylon looking at like Luke Bryan. I ain't never heard of her.
That's what I heard. There's a TikTok guy. He's just kind of like this weird, awkward dude. And TikTok, there's a lot of things where people have prompts or like, tell me the time when a celebrity was terribly rude to you. And this guy, he's like, Luke Bryan. He just keeps making albums. It's fucking disgusting. It's terrible. You couldn't be any more rude than
There you
subject
go.
to your
Yeah, that is the worst. Yeah. Oh man. There's and all the stuff that they call,
Wait, say again.
you know this? Hick hop?
Hick
Hick
hop?
hop.
Is that a new
Not
thing?
yeah.
No, that's
So it's like rap country rap.
hick hop.
Oh
Oh my gosh, that should be stuck in
yeah.
the cradle.
Yeah.
Someone just pillow
Just
head just down.
yeah. Yes. It needs to go away.
Yeah, speaking of Billy Ray Cyrus,
But man,
yeah, like Bill Nas X and his
speaking
what's
of,
that thing? I'm going to ride my cowboy or something. Ride a horse.
oh right. Yeah, it's another thing whenever it comes on. I don't know. I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I
I
missed that
cannot do
concert.
it.
We almost had another thing this fall, but of course then they pushed it off again to the spring, and I don't know if it's going to happen again. But we will do it again because it's just too damn
Yeah,
cool not to do.
it is good. And it's so fun to me. You know, and Americans, especially over on this side of America, opera is not really a deep part of our culture. There are, you know, the folks who've grown up around it have grown up around it, but it's really cool during that concert to see the people who cared for opera and ended up being like, man, that country stuff was really touching. That was like really kind of deep. I wasn't ready for that. I didn't know I'd like that so well.
Yeah.
Vice versa, you see the people who, I don't know, they're there for a business event or whatever, and they're going mad for the country stuff because that's what they grew up on. But then they'll be like, wow, like I get it. Like when you in that second part, when you're doing that George Jones song and you explain that opera stuff, it's like, man, I really get it. I mean, the language just kind of kept me from it, but wow, that was gorgeous. So it's kind of like brings people to both sides.
What I loved about it was, and that was
That's fun to
that
do.
was one of the points was that, you know, rarely, I mean, it happens, but rarely, like, do both members of a donor's family, the husband and the wife, or the husband, the wife, and the wife, or whatever, rarely do they both love opera. It's usually one person is like
Right.
fetish, you know, and I mean,
Yep.
it's that's the only way I can explain, you know, someone writing $1 million check just to be around opera is that it's like it's so they love it so much, but the other
Yep.
person's like, yeah, I'll show up and it's fine. And when we do this show, you know, it's a night where these both members of that relationship can come to something and enjoy something that's there, you know, can relate to it.
Yeah.
And it really does. I think it builds bridges.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's it's the perfect for American folk like us and for those couples. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, like you say, at one of these donors events or so like, and they'll say right to my face, still sweating from the 3 hour performance, just like, I'm not really into this stuff. You know, no,
That
I
was,
just
you
she
know, right?
drags me here because if I come here, then she'll go to my rodeo with me or whatever else. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely
Thanks.
cool for those in and get something out of both of it and just sort of see maybe there's something for them in that stuff they've never quite explored. So it's cool.
Yeah, dude. I
And
love it.
I do hope we do more of it.
We will.
And we have some new ideas, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I always do. Because now that I'm playing with this bluegrass band that we have, I mean, you just the pure amount of rep that you kind of run into is incredible. And
right.
the whole time it's like pow, pow, pow. This would work great. That would work great. And you know, it's one of the things that I love opera. I do. I'm committed to it. I love the art form. But now I sort of call it my day job, you know, because one of the things I missed about
Hmm.
doing stuff like that, doing band concerts, is that sort of that immediate connection. And it's sort of similar to like what you guys have at Des
Yeah.
Moines right now, when you are like 5 feet away from the audience. But most of the time, if we're doing like the
Yeah.
big show, you're like 30, 40 feet from the first person. And who knows how far you are. I don't have my sextant where I could figure out how far the person in the back row is.
Hmm.
But you know, I miss that sort of immediate
Yeah.
connection with people and like seeing their faces and seeing how they respond. and knowing like everyone's bored or, you know, they're loving this. That lady's crying. You know?
Yeah. Even when we do an opera, even if we are close to them, we're not allowed to really interact with them
Right.
or acknowledge their existence, right? Because
You can't do crowd work at
you're
an
not
opera.
here. We're in characters, right?
I
Yeah,
like doing crowd work. I love
that's a good
talking.
note. You like that one, right?
And there's no tips.
Yeah.
They should do that at the opera house. They should have a tip jar in the back on the way out.
Why
Like
not?
in church, you know, like the offering plate. You should pass that offering plate around.
I like it.
Yeah. I know you just paid $250 for that seat, but mind throwing an extra 20 in there for the band?
Yeah. Our oboists has come on hard times. It would really mean a lot.
Yeah, I love that one. I love that one. Did you ever go to
Pretty
those
deep.
those like Southern gospel concerts, like Blackwood Brothers and stuff, those quartets, and they would come through and give a concert at the church, and then
Yeah.
and then they already got
Yeah.
paid to be there, and then they would have a love offering, and there'd always be a sob story about
Yeah.
some man, kid got sick or whatever. You know, we just really appreciate
Yeah.
if he just
Yeah.
pass a hat. And then everyone's throwing like 20 people
My
that
little niece.
are Job's turkey, man, throwing 20 bucks in there like nothing. Man.
Yep.
Well, brother, I really hope we
I
get
don't know.
again sometime. And if you're out there and you
Oh,
want
me
to
too.
have a show where it's fun for, you know, the people who love opera, but also fun for the people that got drugged to the opera, you should look it up because it's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, I hope you have a blast in Des Moines. Give everybody my love out there.
I will. I for sure will. Your spirit looms large here. Haley, we had the show last night, and she's like, I'm just standing there. We're coming back in from intermission, and I heard Mike's name twice. Like people talking out in the lobby of the pictures. Oh, there's Mike. Oh, did you see that one? Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But I
That's
will.
when,
I will send hugs.
that's when we had his clothes off. Those days are over. Thank God.
My days of the
Thank you,
never
Giuseppe
started.
Ernie.
Funny enough.
All
Yeah.
right, man. Well, it's good to see you, brother.
You too.
Yeah.
You too. Good to see your face.
We got to pick again. We got to sing some opera together again one of these days, too.
Yeah, supposedly when the world comes back to normal, it'll be good.
All right, man.
I wanna do something new. Let's do something weird.
I'm down with
Not
that.
like Trovatore, but I want to do something weird with you.
I'm
All
down
right.
with that. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
I know you are.
All right, give my love to Haley and the kids, man. All right.
You got it. You
Listen,
got it.
brother.
Same to you. Bye.